So an exciting time on the stock market. Huge movers on the stock market, huge movers. So let's have a look at some of the movers and see what's happened and see where we're looking at with stock market things. Again, huge movements here, right? So let's see what we're at on this. Let me just refresh this page for you guys. Huge movements. Alrighty, let's open this up. AMD, right? Where are we at on AMD? Look at this here. Huge kind of decreases in AMD here. We saw this moving down, right? Huge movement, right? And again, AMD, why is this moving down? Let's try and do some Fibonacci retracement on this, right? So we take this at the bottom line here, and then we draw this out, right? And we try to see where we're at on here, right? Huge kind of movements down on here, right? Huge movements, right? So we take here to here, right? Where are we looking at, right? Huge movements. So let's have a look at a few other stocks that have been moving big in the industry, right? So I think that this is really something that we're seeing. We talked before about trying to bring in some of the news in this, right? When we try and bring in some of this news, right, we're seeing a lot of China, Taiwan fears, and a lot of that China, Taiwan fears are really bringing into the stock market here. So when I bring us back to stock market and we start looking at China, Taiwan fears, right, we've got things like TSMC, right? Taiwanese semiconductor. Right, we've seen a 4.6% increase here, right? Let's open this up big, right? Seen huge kind of increases in this, right? But then we've seen here is this is where we're seeing some of the risk, right? So let's try and draw out some of this risk here. Let's go into our Fibonacci here, right? And we draw this out. Place that down here, right? We can now see here, right? We can see where we're falling into. And then we can see if we start drawing some lines here as well. Let's go into our lines, let's draw a solid line, 1 pixel line, right? Let's draw that out, right? And then we can draw one line here. Let's draw a line at the top here. And then we can draw another line underneath here, right? Okay, clicking down. Oh, there we go. Come on, line. Clicking down and clicking up, right? There we go. Right, so we can see here a nice kind of healthy line here, right? We're seeing this, but when we start to draw this, you can see the ups and downs in this, right? And we're seeing this Fibonacci here, right? We're seeing that maybe this is hitting the bottom. It's unclear on this, but I think that we've also got to look at how much the news is playing an important factor and an important role in TSMC stock, right? And how this is also, playing larger into the stock market in a general, right? Especially in these tech stocks, right? So AMD, right? We're seeing this AMD here, right? If I draw this line out again and we start to look at where we're at with AMD, right? And we start seeing how we're doing here with AMD, right? We're seeing huge kind of losses down here, right? Right. We're seeing overall, right? We saw this come from kind of like 171 all the way down to sort of 157. So when I see swings like this, this is what gets me excited, right? I mean, we can be shorting, we can be buying, right, in a market, but when we have big swings like this, this is the important time, right? When the swings are big, the wins are big, and we can win kind of either side on the market there, right? So we need to be looking at what we're doing on this, right? We talked about where this is with other stocks, right? Here's Nvidia, right? So we're looking at Nvidia here, right? We've seen super growth on Nvidia, right? So even with a little bit of this worry about the trade tariffs with the chips, right? We're still seeing bullish growth on Nvidia, right? And we're talking about some of the other chips like AMD that we just looked at as well, and how some of this is contrasting. And I think that this brings us into kind of one of the ones that I'm most excited to tell you guys about. And this also brings us into kind of why TSMC and things like that are doing so well, is one of my favorite stocks, AAPL, right? So when we look at AAPL, Apple Incorporated. We look at Apple stock. We see that Apple is basically investing heavily in US manufacturing, right? So when we look at kind of where Apple stock is doing, right, we're seeing Apple stock up 2.5%. This is because, we're looking at a lot of this chip sort of sourcing and different countries working with the different chips. And we're seeing that Apple's heavily looking at investing in the US, right? They've already committed to that investment in the US. And I think that we're seeing Apple aligning better with the US government for chips. And I think that chips are obviously a very important part of Apple's business, both for its iPhone line, which accounts for the majority of Apple revenue, and also for its Macintosh lines, right? So when we start to draw out some of these lines here, and we go into some of these lines and we start drawing out some lines, right? We really see some great kind of opportunities here. And if I start drawing some lines for you guys to start seeing kind of what we're looking at, right? And I click on this and we draw here, right? It's a little bit harder to see here. And I draw another line for you guys here as well. Right, we've seen some kind of bearish movement down, right? We've seen some bearish movement down. We're not looking at stocks in the same way that we were on some of the stocks yesterday, but we've seen some kind of regression down on this, right? We've seen this kind of move down to around, what are we looking at here? So 195, right? But when we look at this here, right, we've seen this come sort of July 23 was up in the sort of green area here. This is what, the sort of um, 213, right? We've seen this move down, right? This isn't even the lowest, right? We've seen this move down here to kind of 212. And I think that we're going to see, if I could try to draw some lines about the future, I think that we're going to see some real growth in Apple stock, right? And we did, right? We saw Apple move down from somewhere down on this bottom here at 202, right? And we saw it move right up here, right? And as you guys know in these lines, right, we get into some of these green areas. We're looking in the kind of buy area, right? We're looking at where we get in here, and Apple throughout the day, right, moved way into that, right? We saw huge moves in Apple stock, right? We saw Apple move up 2.41%. That's huge. And I don't think that we're going to see that move down tomorrow. I think that there's a good chance that this is going to significantly move up, right? We've seen these lines kind of move down. We've seen this move down in here. And I think that we're looking at a reversal here. And I think we're moving this down. And when we try and run a sort of Fibonacci on this, right, we can see that Apple's clearly moved into the green there. So we've seen, huge opportunities there. I think we're really seeing a lot of opportunity there with Apple. So these are some of my big kind of movers. I think recently really been into the chip thing, especially the way that Apple's been and the way that AMD's been, right, and TSMC. So I think that we're seeing huge kind of gains in the chip space here, right? So let's look at, I think we brought up Nvidia earlier, so we'll bring that up again. There's TSMC, right? Let's look at the TSMC, right? So again, the TSMC, we're looking at what, 4.9% gains in TSMC. And if we try to bring up, where are we talking about? AMD, right? AMD, right? We look at where AMD is doing, right? We're seeing a kind of pullback on the AMD. So this is largely due to China. So AMD and the US and China relationship has really been hammering AMD. But other chip manufacturers are really not seeing those same kind of problems. We're really seeing some of this kind of bring back. I think this is definitely a good time for chips, a huge opportunity for chips. And we talked about kind of where some of those chips are getting. Right, if we look at Intel, right, already have Intel in here. That's PayPal. We talked about PayPal earlier in the week. And I want to kind of just mostly talk about chips today. So we talked about Intel a lot the other day. So, we've seen that big decline in Intel, right? I don't know if you guys have been following me, but I was talking a lot about Intel and saying, where I think Intel was definitely a short and its likelihood to go down. I'm now, sort of looking at this, right? And let's just draw a Fibonacci on Intel. So let me press done on that. Let me bring up the Fibonacci. Let me draw a Fibonacci, right? Right. And when we start looking at this, right, we're seeing this really getting into the golden kind of opportunities here. Let me Let me draw another one of those for you guys the other way around. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Okay, just kind of click that. Okay. Alrighty, awesome, awesome. So I think we can see here, right? We saw this move all the way down to, I think the bottom kind of line that we were hitting here was around 18, right? We're seeing kind of highs up there, right? So we're seeing this move up, right? We're seeing this, what did it get to in the close there, right? We saw that close in at kind of 250. So we're seeing, if this moves a bit more tomorrow, right? So when we look at this in kind of live trading and see where we're getting into tomorrow, I think this is pretty likely, right? I mean, when we zoom in and look at this, right, and look at, let me delete this so you guys can see a bit clearer, right? When we see this, let me draw you a line. When we see, I don't really like orange. I know that we've been using it recently, but I kind of feel, okay, purple, that's kind of nice, right? When we see here and we try and draw this out, right? I think that we can see some pretty aggressive growth on this, right? I think by, in the next kind of couple days, I think it's very likely that we can see Intel move into this sort of area of at least, kind of uh, around sort of $22 a share, something like that. I think that's not unreasonable, right? This puts us into kind of good growth. And I think when we see the lines, when I try and draw out this, I think there's really a lot of potential there in Intel as well. And I think that, the way that the Trump tariffs are kind of moving, obviously will have a lot to do with this, but I think that we're seeing, huge opportunities here, right? So again, looking at chip stocks, so we've looked at AMD, we've looked at Intel, and looked at Nvidia a bit today as well. I think we looked at Nvidia earlier. So I see, again, huge kind of opportunities on things, right? Here's Nvidia, just to remind you guys, right? So, again, seeing kind of great bullish growth on Nvidia. When we looked at AMD here, right, we've seen some kind of declines in AMD. I think AMD again are kind of short on AMD. And then again, Intel, I think Intel's kind of somewhere in the middle there with a kind of good opportunity there on Intel. So these are the kind of three stocks that I kind of want to talk to you guys about and kind of yeah, kind of summarize out on. So yeah, Intel see, potential kind of in Intel, AMD still going strong. Sorry. uh, Intel, I see, a great kind of opportunity here. I think this is kind of, there is some risk in there, but I think there's some kind of opportunity for some gains there. Nvidia, I've been bullish about Nvidia all week. In fact, I've been bullish about Nvidia for a while, and Nvidia really has been, doing great. And when we look at Nvidia, I think, again, great opportunities in Nvidia and AMD. I think AMD, is really kind of a short on that. But I think that's kind of my hot topic ideas for today, and look forward to tuning in with you guys tomorrow and talking more about it. So thank you guys so much.